Good morning once again from my kitchen. I'm slightly less bleary-eyed because I was 10 minutes later than last time, because I've made my breakfast. But yeah, here we go again. I am nervous about this ride. It's the first time starting a ride that I genuinely don't think I'll be able to finish. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. But it's going to be an all-day affair. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. Got my breakfast ready to go. Leave my messy kitchen counter out of this. Right, I'll see you guys on the road. Look how dark it is.
Hello everyone, welcome to another video. Sorry it's so long, I'm just owning it. I'm at the top of Moyle Arthur. Right, next stop, Denbigh. I love seeing these cows. Every time I come out this way this time of morning. It's fantastic. There must be like thousands of them in the herd because the line stretches for as far as I can see, right and left. That farmer's an absolute legend. You couldn't hear what he said, but he said they don't see bikes very often, so they'd all turned around to look at me. I love cows, they're so inquisitive. So here you go, climbing out of Denbigh now, up the Sportsman's. You've seen it before. I don't know if any of this will come out because my phone screen is on basically zero brightness, trying to save battery. But the unbridled beauty of Snowdonia National Park here. Absolute majesty of Wyddfa, Snowdon in the middle. So yeah, onwards and upwards for me. Making good time so far, feeling good, loving it. This is all a lovely stretch of road and it'd be great to do a video in its own right, but knowing what I had to come, I didn't include much of it. If anything, you could argue I've included too much of it, but it's a great fun descent, and riding it at like, this must be 6 AM, fantastic because the road's clear. This is a little village called Ysbyty, Ifan. It means the hospital of Saint someone, not Ivan. I've made that mistake before, but it's an ancient little settlement at the bottom of Mygnant Moor, and this is Mygnant Moor that I'm climbing up now. This is very near to where Rhiannon grew up, and this runs parallel to the Penmachno climb that you saw me and my dad do on our big ride the other week and that I've done with Phil before. It's a lovely climb in its own right, but it's less consistent. It's a long drag basically with some steep pitches and some really nice scenery, and it goes on for the best part of 8 miles I think. So a very nice stretch of road to cycle, and by this point I think it was about 8:30, so I was getting a little bit warmer. It was a chilly start. And the clouds were starting to clear a bit to see a bit of sunshine. So I quite enjoyed doing this, and I had to really fight the temptation to just go as fast as I could up it. I'd love to come and have another go on it. The Tour of Britain descended this road, so it didn't used to be nice tarmac, but because the Tour of Britain came through, they repaved it, and for a Welsh moorland road, tarmac's pretty good, so that's fantastic. Here we go, this lovely glowing sunlight as I enter Gwynedd, the county of Snowdon. I shouldn't stop for long because I'm not far from the breakfast stop. I'm just at the absolutely lovely viewpoint by Afon Cwmval. But the reason I wanted to stop is because let's look this way. I've shown you this view before, but it goes down to Porthmadog there. But you can go past Porthmadog. I don't know if my phone zoom will get it, and you can see all the way out to the Llyn, and that's where I'm going today. And that's why I wanted to stop, because you can see basically to the end of where I want to go, and it's amazing. Right, I'll show you it from the road. I hope you recognise this descent by now, out of Llanfestiniog. Same as ever, feels like my home roads by now, which it isn't, obviously. And this is just a little bit past there. This lake on the left is called Llyn Peninsula. Me and Rhiannon come running round here sometimes, but it's also halfway up a cracking little climb. It's only like a 5 to 7 minute effort, but it's steep and it's beautiful. It's a lovely little area. This is like ancient growth forest, rainforest in Wales, and it's really pretty. Lovely place to come and visit. I'd really recommend it if you're ever in Snowdonia. I know I say that about a lot of places, but just up here is the Festiniog Railway, which is an old steam train, goes down to the bottom of Stwlan as well, but there's a stop along here, and it takes you down to Porthmadog, to the Cob. So if you're ever touristing, it's good fun. Look at that pretty bridge that I went under. Sometimes you get a steam train going along there, which is great. And then it's a really fun descent You get quite expansive views over sort of Porthmadog and what's called the Llyn Estuary, which is a nice conservation area for ospreys if you're interested in bird watching. But it's just quite a nice area generally to ride your bike. It was a great descent, I didn't put too much in. Aberdaron from Garreg. This is an absolutely lovely like shop, kitchen, coffee shop, breakfast place in Garreg. Snowdonia, not too far from Ffestiniog where Rhiannon grew up. Love it here. I'm 120k in, averaging 29 kilometers an hour, but really the adventure starts here because I know all of this area. I've known all of the roads I've cycled so far, but I'm about to go into the unknown, into the Llyn Peninsula. Lots of social justice stuff there. It's a vegetarian cafe. Really lovely place, great initiative, sells local food, local coffee, excellent coffee, really recommend it. Cofiwch Drwyrin. I've touched on the Drwyrin thing before in my videos, but that's a remember an injustice done to the Welsh people. Yeah, so big ride, all by myself, no support from anyone, here all on my own. Isn't that excellent? But oh, my parents are over there. It'd be rude not to go and say hello, wouldn't it? Great breakfast, great value for money. I was very happy. Then I came out over the Llyn Estuary. This is along Prenteg, these cliffs on the right, people come and do rock climbing at. And then I've skipped a lot because it was very built up. This is Criccieth. Criccieth Castle ahead of me is beautiful, and the town itself is very nice, but a bit neglected, I think, at the moment. But lovely views over the sea, great beach. And then I've skipped a lot of the initial Llyn Peninsula by Pistyll, because it's just main roads, and main roads to Abersoch as well. And I thought you wouldn't be so interested. So here we are, further down the Llyn Peninsula, looking over Abersoch. I didn't bother going to this peninsula off the peninsula, because the roads are rubbish for cycling. But the views up here were absolutely staggering. I really didn't know that it would be this beautiful in terms of coastline and beaches. So as I ride down here, I'd like to just talk to you a little bit about some of the tensions on the Llyn Peninsula. This is a beautiful place that historically has been very far removed from a lot of the UK. Hola. Yeah, you too, mate. To get to this little spit of land on the very far west of Wales, you would have to cross Snowdonia, which for a lot of history has been no trivial thing. So that meant that this area has been Welsh speaking, based on agriculture and fishing, economy, not so exposed to England, I guess. Then its beautiful beaches and coastline have started attracting tourists, and Abersoch particularly is a place that they'll all come. And I've been on holiday there. This isn't meant to judge people who are going on holiday in Abersoch. Sometime in the 90s, maybe even earlier, English people with disposable incomes started saying, I can buy a house there. But they don't live there, right? It's second home ownership, and they will come and live in it a couple of weeks a year. And slowly but surely, the local culture here has been eroded, and there's just homes sitting empty all year round. It means that even though Abersoch is a relatively large town here, local people, local teachers, nurses, council workers can't afford houses. The price has gone up so much, and there's so few families that live in Abersoch now that they had to close the local school, which is an absolute tragedy. Yeah, it's a travesty that would happen. So there's resentment on this peninsula to second homeowners, to what's perceived as the erosion of the Welsh language and Welsh culture. And it's a beautiful peninsula that you can come and enjoy. I don't know anyone here who objects to holiday makers. It's about coming and travelling respectfully. Second home ownership is a blight. No one should have a right to a second home when people can't afford a first home in the community they live in and contribute to. It's not an issue I want you to think I'm angry about, but I think it's something that it would be Poor form for me to come here and not address, and getting, you know, the Welsh perspective on it from Rhiannon and her Welsh speaking friends. I totally understand. I'm rambling now. Hopefully I'll show you some more nice stuff on the road. So if you're still watching after that self-indulgent monologue, yeah, I do apologise. I thought I should say it, but it got a bit heavier than I was anticipating. This is a relatively major climb on the Llyn. This is a Rhiw climb. It is something around an 8-minute effort for me, taking it relatively steady. I think I averaged 290 watts for 8 minutes. So yeah, really not going too deep. But it's a steep climb in parts. It gets well over 20%. So I'm really glad I rode with my 34 cassette on the back. I was debating doing this with some wheels that already had a 25 fitted, and I think that would have burnt me out quite early. Proper grinding. Yeah, this is a lovely climb, and you get some great views behind you back over the bay that we've just seen. The stats of the climb are it's about 2k long, around an 8% average, but that's including a very flat section at the beginning, really, and then a very steep section to end, which is still what I'm slogging up here. You can see that I did go pretty hard as I was slogging away there. I probably shouldn't have gone quite as hard as I did, but I don't like the idea of doing these rides as steady zone 2 things. I'm not a robot, and I think that sounds like a loveless marriage to me. The passion's completely gone in cycling if you want to just sit at zone 2 for 12 hours. I get out there to absolutely punch it, and if I die, I die, so be it. I want to do what I love on the bike. This is just over the top of a Rhiw climb there, and looking down to the next bay along. This is something that I didn't really realise that Llyn did, is that you have a series of like smaller hills and then bays that you can look over, so it's just views on views on views. Absolutely beautiful, and I can finally see towards the end of the Llyn Peninsula, which it was not even halfway for my ride, but was a real benchmark, and I'll talk more about it when I get there. This is the small community of Aberdaron, and if you wanted to go on holiday to the Llyn Peninsula, this is the sort of place I'd really recommend coming. It's got a couple of lovely cafes, some really nice hotels, but it's not as touristy, packaged up for the Cheshire Ra crowd as Abersoch is. It's for people who want to come and walk and enjoy the beaches, and the economy does thrive on tourism. You will be very much welcomed. It's a lovely place. It's a very different vibe to Abersoch, or even Pwllheli, to be fair. So straight down into Aberdaron, straight out the other side. This was incredibly rude, this steep climb. It's very short, but it's, yeah, really steep. It gets up to, again, 10-15%, significant, and I'm trying my best not to burn too many matches, so I tried to go quite slow. If you saw the graffiti there, Cofiwch Drw, I didn't see it when I was riding, but I saw it behind me from my camera. This is the end of the Llyn Peninsula. That island behind me is called Ynys Enlli, and that is locally known as the Welsh Ellis Island. It's where people were registered if they were immigrating. I think particularly from Ireland when the Blight was happening, and there were a lot of Irish immigrants coming over this way. I was going to stop and film more there, because it was sort of like the point I was riding to on my ride, and I completely forgot, so I do apologise. Here I am down the other side now, and this north side of the very end of the Llyn Peninsula is, I don't want to say desolate because that sounds rude, but it's very sparsely populated, quiet roads. I nearly had one crash because the road became a gravel track and I took a corner at 25 miles an hour, which was stupid, but I managed to keep the bike upright. Heading down towards Aberdaron and Nefyn, or Morfa Nefyn, you can see these 3 hills ahead of me. They're really imposing, dominate the landscape. I think they're called Rhiw, so in English they end up being called the Rivals. Viewers, just here in Nefyn, near the beach but not on the beach, and in this nice coffee shop, Tea Coffee. Every town in Wales has a tea coffee, just means coffee house. Sitting with my ginger beer. I'm on 201k. Where are we up to? Not bad. So coming out of Nefyn there's actually quite a steep climb up to this village called Pistyll, and then Llyfreithin, I think. It's a climb I didn't record too much of, partly because I wasn't feeling great at this point in the ride, to be honest. The sting had started, but there was so much of the ride left that it was a bit hard mentally to push on. Still, I did a decent effort up it, I believe. Considering it's 2 km at 6%, I averaged 290 watts for 6 minutes 20 up it. So, you know, I had a dig. And then this is coming over the top to a place called Nant Gwerthyn. It's a complete dead-end road. There was no reason for me to need to come over there except for the view. So this is the view behind me, back down to the south side of the Llyn Peninsula and out to sea. And then this is the view ahead of me, north side of the Llyn Peninsula, out to the sea. And this is a climb that if I was not so many miles deep, I would have gone all the way down to the bottom, because as we approach it, it just looks sensational. It's just like carved out with a rock. And this goes all the way down to the sea, which is almost as close as it looks. As I come down here, you can see that there's a 25% gradient warning and then a switchback. And it's just 2 switchbacks. So here on my rear view camera, have a look at the gradient on that corner. So I tucked my tail between my legs and I turned around. I decided not to go all the way down. I just took one picture at that viewpoint of the corner. But another day I will try. But maybe if I start at my mother-in-law's instead, so my legs are fresher. Then back down the other side, I actually got a 4th of all time on this descent, which is not a good thing, into a village. It's just because I was so tired. I needed to go as fast as I could. Now this is the run-in to Caernarfon, and to be honest, it's alongside an A road, and it's not the most exciting bit of the journey, so I've not included a lot. But it's nice that there's lots of cycle paths. I wouldn't necessarily always take this sort of cycle path, but I really didn't want to be on an arterial road around here that goes up to some of our big ports. And then, as I just said on the camera, if you heard it, this is an old railway line turned into a cycle path that runs into Caernarfon. So this is some great cycling infrastructure. I really appreciated this. I couldn't go particularly fast down it, but that's okay. It got me off the roads and it got me into a nice different setting. And as you know, I love pretending I'm a train. Choo-choo! Now coming into Caernarfon, that's the Welsh Highland Railway on the right of me. That's a different steam railway to the one I talked about earlier by Llyn. And look at this castle. Caernarfon Castle is famous in the UK. It's an incredible castle and it's well worth visiting, and it just dominates this town. Incredible piece of architecture, and really I was quite awestruck cycling around it, and it's so imposing. I don't know any stats about it because I don't know much about castles, but yeah, leaving Caernarfon now, and again this path along what's called the Menai Strait, the body of water next to me that separates Anglesey from the mainland. This path goes all the way to Bangor, pretty much, which is the next major location along this route. Bangor being a city in North Wales, an actual city. It's still not a massive place, but it's got a university and stuff, so it's the biggest settlement I hit in Wales on this route. I've skipped straight through Bangor because it's just like urban sprawl, I guess. It's not particularly exciting, but this is just leaving Bangor. I've just said on the camera, this is an example of things that I'm not willing to cycle through. And that is, again, a ford. Fortunately, this one's got a bridge, so I can avoid it. I've driven through that while seeing mates in Bangor. I was fuming at these sheep. I fully started swearing at them, because this place is so narrow. This is a great cycle path, by the way, but so narrow that I couldn't pass them. And here you see the A55. It's the closest North Wales has to a motorway. And it's the only way to get from Bangor to Conwy, really, because there's mountains everywhere else. You take this road, or you hike over the mountains. Fortunately, they've put in this great cycle path. You can't really cycle it quickly, but I can't complain at all that there's a custom-built, elevated pathway over this motorway. It's not a motorway, but you're not allowed to cycle on it. It's actually forbidden, even though you're allowed to ride on other A roads. And I was just buzzing about this sort of cycling infrastructure. Even though I was so far through, I was really excited and actually recorded the whole thing because I thought, that's cool. Maybe I'll just do a YouTube video of this cycle path, which I realised later is a terrible idea because it's not that exciting. But you can't quite tell. This bit of road is just carved out of the cliff. So the A55 tunnels through the mountain, and you have no choice. You know, I could maybe cycle on the beach, but they've basically reclaimed land to make a road and then built a cycle path over it. And credit where it's due. I think that's investment in infrastructure that's needed. Now I'm in a place called Capellulo, I think. It is a little Victorian village at the bottom of a pass. Because for the reasons I was just telling you, the cliff goes down to the beach. When mail coaches started being a thing in Victorian times, they needed a more reliable route, so that when the tide was in, they couldn't take the beach. So they built what's called a Sychnant Pass, which is where I am now. Sychnant Pass is not a particularly long climb, but my god is it steep. It was, I think it's only like a kilometre at most, but I'm sure there's parts where it hits 20%, or maybe it's just that I was 280k deep. It felt horrific. But it's not far from Conwy, and that's a place I've visited a lot because we're getting sort of back to near where I live now. And I never knew this road existed. And I was just amazed. Look at it, like, it may not be very high and it may not be very long, but it's got the feel of a high mountain pass, the way it's built. So I really enjoyed kind of the atmosphere of it. I don't know if that's a knobby thing to say. I mean, I say I really enjoyed it. I knew I would really enjoy it, but I have to say, at the time, like I say, 275 km in, having to climb up this was suboptimal. I was truly struggling at this point. That said, I did it in 4 minutes 31 at an average power of 310 watts. So I'm very happy that I was still able to put out that kind of power. I think that's really reassuring for me. And I'd love to come back and have a go at it, you know, in earnest. I know I say that about all of these climbs. I'd love to come and have a fresh go at it. And to be honest, I just really enjoyed it. The problem is you can't do a loop because there are no other roads. I'd have to just come over it and then turn around and come back over it, unless I wanted to do, you know, a 200+k ride again. But yeah, really beautiful. And it'd be nice to come and do the walks and stuff around here. I'm a shameless tourist in Wales, aren't I? I'm embarrassing, but I love it. I'd go on holiday to Capellulo. I don't think Rhiannon would, but I would. Well, I've got to tell you, loyal YouTube friends, my morale's truly dipping. That climb was beautiful, and I'd love to come back and do it again when I don't have almost 200 miles in my legs already. My morale's dipping, but I think I need a bit of a perspective check, right? I'm tired, but it's a random Thursday where I've emailed my boss saying, I'm not coming in today, I'm going to ride my bike for 220 miles around the Llyn Peninsula instead. He said, have a great day. That's the end of it. No guilt at work. I said to Rhiannon, this is what I'm going to do. Rhiannon said, if that's what you want to do, have a great day. I'll be at home when you're ready. Unfortunately, no one did volunteer to drive their car around with all my stuff anywhere near me in North Wales, so that if I have a puncture or I need to stock up on food, they're there at a moment's notice. No one offered to do that, which is a bit rude, isn't it? Very annoying. So I've done this all by myself, completely self-supported, all on my own. Now I'm going to drop down into Conwy. Sorry, I didn't finish my stream of thought there. What a fucking lucky man I am. What an amazing opportunity to be able to do this and have everyone around me just go, have a great time. You know, that's what you want to do. Do it. So I need to get myself in check, sort my morale out. Yeah, I'm going to absolutely cane it down this descent now and try not to die on my way to Conwy. See you all soon. And a great little descent it was too. Took me a little bit of time to get rolling, and unfortunately there was a little bit of traffic where I had to brake a couple of times, and because I was so tired by this point, I was a bit arsey with them, saying that you don't slow down for a cattle grid, that makes it worse. These people braking to do 10 miles an hour over it. I was fuming. But it was loads of fun going down here. It's a lovely road to ride. And knowing that I was going to come out in Conwy at the bottom was the icing on the cake. I wanted to be at the cafe at the end within sort of 10 to 15 minutes, so I did have to go quite fast. Now, I come into Conwy, which is another castle town in North Wales. I just love to get into the town, you have to go through these arches on the walls. Unfortunately, it's quite a congested little town because it's very, very touristy, as you'll see in a second. But it's beautiful. There's loads of stuff to do there. It's absolutely lovely. Coming to Conway Castle was like a classic school trip for kids on Merseyside, and I have fond memories of it. So, when me and my dad rode to Ironbridge last year, we did a 260k ride to Ironbridge. I said to him, I'm going to email Netflix and I'm going to pitch me hosting a show called Brownbill's British Bridges by Bike, where I do cycling to a different bridge each week, and it'll be part cycling content, part bridge content, right? I know you're falling asleep already, everyone, but I've got an idea for my second series. It's going to be Cycling Cymru's Classic Castles, and it's going to be me cycling to castles, bit of cycling content, bit of castle content. What do you reckon, guys? If you think that sounds interesting, email Netflix. I'll do it. It'll be great. This bus was the bane of my life. It went so slowly, I couldn't even enjoy the suspension bridge that's to my left in the rear view camera, my right in the front view camera. That's a classic suspension bridge, a Thomas Telford. Fantastic. Look at this view of that castle with the suspension bridge in front of it. It's a really beautiful place, Conway. Joking aside, it's right next to Llandudno, which is of the Orme, where that stage of the Tour of Britain ended.
This is actually the road you were going to come down.
It is, yeah. How great is this? This is in Llandudno Junction. I didn't know this was here. It's called We Bike. Massive bike shop, coffee shop, tours on. What a way to pick me up when I was just whinging about my morale being low. So yeah, that was a really welcome surprise, that bike shop, coffee shop place. That was fantastic. They were lovely people in there. I'd love to go back there. This is the climb out with Llandudno Junction. I don't know the name of the climb actually, but it's quite a big hill up to Betws-yn-Rhos. And I love this road. I've done it a few times, but it's still, I mean, we're still sort of 100k from my house, so it is a long way out. And finally, the last climb of the day is called Rhuallt Hill. I normally wouldn't think of this as a major climb, and I've done pretty well on the leaderboard, I believe, but 310k in, I couldn't believe I had to climb this. It's 1.73k at 6.7%, and I did it with an average power of 290 watts. So that's a poor effort generally for me, but all things considered, I'm delighted. Who are these weirdos just waiting on the side of the road to clap at random cyclists? That's strange, isn't it? I don't know why people do that. Anyway, halfway up this hill, here you go. I just come over the top and I was delighted because to my mind, that was the last challenge of the day over, and it's just roll home. Still 60k.
Bath time with Nick. Oh, what a day. What a day. What a ride. I'm glad I'm in this bath. Rihanna was so good to me, you know. She really deserves a shout out that she'd seen my Strava tracker and ran me a bath, so it was times that when I got through the door, I could just get in. But the first thing I had to do was fix my Strava files. They were messed up, and I'd recorded it as two separate things. I had to join them back together, and then also the second thing I did was order myself a curry. It's the only food I've fancied all day. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I've had such a good day. Despite all my jokes all the way round, I hope it was clear that my parents really kindly offered to support me a little bit. They weren't like a proper support vehicle. They put some useful things in the car and they went and had a day at the beach so that they were nearer in case anything went wrong. But they did take it pretty seriously. You know, they met up with me several times on the way around. It allowed me to refuel and they checked I was okay. I wouldn't have been able to do it without them. I probably would, but it took such a load of stress off. Like, it was really kind of them. I really do appreciate it. It's a blessing to have such supportive people around me. I'm going to go before I fall asleep in my bath. Hi everyone. I hope you've enjoyed the video. I haven't actually made it yet, so I think it might be very long because I've been going through the footage today and there's so much of it that, that I really want to include, and I don't know, I make these videos for me and I make these videos to show off Wales, so it feels like a shame if I've got 40 minutes of, in my opinion, beautiful footage of Wales. It seems like a shame to cut it out because people don't want to watch YouTube videos that long, so I might include it all. It's now Saturday. I had a gentle day yesterday, and then I've just done a Zwift Classic race just to see what punch I had left. My legs feel brilliant, you know. I love doing these big rides. I feel stronger than if I hadn't done that ride on Thursday, I think. If this bores you guys, please tell me, because I don't really know. I just do it because I think it's probably interesting, maybe. So here's the summary of the stats for the ride. For those who don't know, Conwy and We Cycle is a thing Welsh people say. It means Wales forever. It's just like a sports fan's chant or a Wales is great sort of statement. So I thought it would be a good play on words to say Wales went on forever. 263.69 kilometres, weighted average power around 230. My Garmin said 235, and the moving time was 12 hours 34. That is far and away the longest ride I've ever done. In fact, the longest ride I'd ever done until last month was 100 kilometres short of this. I'm pretty happy with an average speed around 29 kilometres an hour. Again, my Garmin said 29, spot on, but never mind. And I've never cracked 10,000 calories burned before, so that's a milestone for me. I'll just go through the course a little bit with you, because I don't think you'll necessarily get that from the footage, because there's so much of it in this early and late part that I will just leave out because it's not new. But headed out of mine down the Wirral and up some very familiar climbs. The Green, which I've not showed you yet, but I will at some point, is like our gateway to Wales climb. And then Moel Arthur, where I started filming. And I'm really enjoying doing this climb at the moment, called the Sportsman's, out of Denbigh. It's not one I've done for ages, but as you can see, it's almost 10 kilometres long. It's a good climb. Over Ysbyty, Ifan, and then I went down near Porthmadog. If you guys are interested, I'll talk about all the cafes I stopped at, because they were all lovely, but one's here, a Garreg, was beautiful. And then, yeah, out onto the Llyn Peninsula, which I loved. I absolutely loved riding around there. It's not something I'll do much of, I'll be honest. It's too far away, and I'd rather ride in Snowdonia probably, but it was lovely as a change. Yeah, out, or back up the Llyn Peninsula. I'll have cut out a lot of this to Caernarfon. And something I'm absolutely gutted about is when you get near Bangor, this bridge, the Menai Bridge, stunning bridge, beautiful bridge, but I didn't have the legs to do any extra climbing. I didn't have to, and it's like downhill sideways and back uphill. Yeah, and then back home, something I've missed out, unfortunately, is I didn't get much footage of sort of the Betws-yn-Rhos climb. This is a cracking climb here. I'd love to have a good go at that one day, and I've said that about a load of things. And then my final climb was Rhuallt Hill. The last thing, something I alluded to with Marco on the comments, I'd like to show you all, is Denhall Lane. So there's nothing special about this climb. It's not that long, right? It's 41 metres of elevation. Average gradient is 5.4%, for almost a kilometre. The reason this climb is significant to me is because it's my way home from Wales almost every time, because it's the end of the cycle path that takes you over the marsh that goes to Wales. And when I was young, I didn't know any cyclist who had done it in under 2 minutes, right? So for me, as a young rider, to get motivation, there was always this benchmark in my head of, I want to be able to do Denhall Lane in under 2 minutes. That was what I aspired to. I used to go out and do hill reps with that as a target. And I never managed it as a junior. This is off topic, but I think it's because I fell into the misconception that I needed to lose weight to be faster. I didn't gain power to be faster. And then I went off for like 8 years playing frisbee and not really riding my bike apart from a few times a year. And I needed to do loads of squats to be an explosive runner. Came back to riding my bike 10 kilos heavier than when I used to ride it, and suddenly I can do Denhall in, I don't know, like 150 was the first real effort I had at it, and I managed to get that down to 129, and I was on this leaderboard for a little bit, but you know, what are you going to do? These are top riders. Some of them knocked me off. I'd like to be back up there one day. I'm sure I'll be able to. Anyway, I set myself a challenge 2 years ago to never do Denhall in more than 2 minutes, no matter what. And the idea behind that is personal accountability. Yeah, I know what it takes to need to be a better rider. I'm not saying I'm a great rider, but I'm a good rider, and I got that way because I put the work in. So this road, I will never not go full gas up. And if I don't do it in under 2 minutes, like, so be it, but I have to try, even if I am 347 kilometres into a ride. So yeah, to do 379 watts for 2 minutes at the end of that ride was unreal. And I filmed a vlog at the top of it, and I was so tired that I was slurring my words, and I apparently didn't actually press record on my phone, so it's not included there. I loved every second of this, and if that doesn't come through in the video, then I've failed. Yeah, it was amazing. I'm really grateful to my parents for helping me out, and to Wales for being lovely. If you've got any suggestions of stuff you think it'd be interesting for me to do, I'd love to hear it, because I don't know what my next challenge is going to be. I'm thinking about maybe going out and doing a round Anglesey, but that's just sort of a knock-off of this ride, isn't it? I'd like to do something more original, but I'm sort of boxed in. I've never said this before, but see where I am on Wirral. I can't really go this way, because it's all just cities. I can go this way, but it's all flat, so that's boring. I have to get all the way to here before it stops being flat again. So I don't know, any suggestions, let me know. As it is, I'm a happy boy, and I hope you've enjoyed my video. I'll see you all in the next one.